back again, once again. We're here with the next episode of our historical origins, our look back. I don't know what to exactly call this yet, but we're looking at cards again. We're looking at deck profiles. We're going to go over the history of XYZs or XCs. We do have two guests joining us for this call. We have the man of mystery, Dakari, and then the one, the only, Seabass Sebastian, joining us for this historical story time with me and Daniel. Please take it away with this, Daniel.
So, last episode we talked about synchro summoning, and the history behind that. The current iteration of Xyz Summoning at the moment is Doomsday. This was the top 16 deck list piloted by Anthony Shu at the beginning of this format post ban list, pre Chaos Origin. But we have to ask ourselves, how did Exceed Summoning really work, like, way back? So from the last episode, we ended our podcast with Tengu Plant, as like that was the first iteration of it, as what is it, YCS Indie introduced XYZs for the first time. But because of how they had it errata, like the Exceed mechanic, we have to actually look at the next event, which is YCS Toronto, which is the first deck list we're looking at today.
There we go.
So, basically, if anyone remembers this format, this is Tengu Plant, and this is like a lot of beloved Yu-Gi-Oh players format because this was the first format where exceeds became like a deciding factor on how like the game was going to be played moving forward. So two cards got released that were really important in this era, which were Levier the Sea Dragon and Leviathan. Both these cards were super game changing at this point because they were both summonable off tour guide essentially. So Levier was basically like DDR, but it just required two level threes, right? But it also was able to steal from your opponent's banner zone too. So this was really crazy in the sense that like the banner zone now instead of like the graveyard being another resource, the banner zone or the room for play zone, it was called back then, became another resource management card. So in mirror matches, this card like drops on the board. It's super crazy, right? And then Leviathan was also like another game changing card where any two level threes just equaled like a 2500 beat stick. This is unheard of. Like imagine like people playing Monarch stats in this format, and like the one Leviathan just kills your Monarch. Like that's just absurd. Um, so the reason why like a lot of these cards were still there from like the old list from like Robbie was because like um lone fires at one, so like synchro plays were always going to be a thing, but because like enemy controller became like a powerhouse, Tengu became like a really big combo piece in the sense that like exceed summoning where it's going to be a thing. And then it just made these exceeds essentially like boosted the level of synchro plays. Sebastian, you played this format, right? Or
Did.
Dakari. What do you guys remember about like exceeds being first coming out?
Well, for myself, I can remember that I was playing Infinity back then, so I was still blending the combos with how I exceeded with how I synchroed because now I have to incorporate the exceeds into my synchro combo play instead of just going straight into 100 eyes and just kind of doing the 100 eyes loop. So it
Yeah,
did affect how I ended boards at that point.
yeah, right. Another thing that comes up a lot in this format, and we're probably going to see this moving forward too, is the existence of both Monster Reborn and Mind Control. These are like the some of the biggest top decks in the format now, just because you just can't leave monsters on the board anymore. Like you either have to literally kill them, or like you one monster naked, then you just take it to exceed with. Like even enemy controller 2 was like
I
super
believe
busted.
Monster Reborn got unbanned, right?
It got unbanned last year in 2010. So like
Okay.
this
I
is
thought it
one of
was
those
the
like
ban list before.
that's okay.
Okay.
But it was like one of those like game changing like factors in this format that like it's these cards become like ridiculous moving forward. Um, if anything too, if I remember, I think this was also the format where like TG plant TG what is that the agent deck became super popular. The TG Stun was also super popular from this year. But
Yeah.
this obviously, right? We also
TG
see
Stun
that
had won Worlds, right? Or
it won
it
Nats
won
that
our
year.
nationals. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was
Yeah.
also
It
like
was
a really
Hansel
strong
Aguero
like
that won with it, right?
yeah. So
Do we have that
yeah,
list,
anywho,
Tito?
no, this is that was from last format. Like we covered more plant because plant became like more that like TG wasn't really like a synchro deck at all. It was more like a skill drain stun deck. Um,
In OCG, TG agents was like the thing. I remember
it was
TG agents was the thing. But in TCG, however, since we had tour guide agents was more popular here.
yeah. I remember Tengu was also a TCG exclusive, right?
Yeah, of course, Tengu was a TCG exclusive, so that,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hell
that
yeah,
in
it
itself.
was.
So
It
yeah, like
changes a
so
lot,
our
doesn't it?
card pool, yeah, so our card pool
format warping card.
matters. Yeah, our format matters. So Um, so obviously, right? We find this is Billy Brick's deck, obviously from Toronto, and he wins like another YCS. After that in NA, so Konami was kind of like, okay, we need to stop synchro summoning from being a thing. So we need to make Exceeds like a lot more accessible to everybody, or like just more of them, which is the next deck list, Dino Rabbit.
Yeah,
Um,
I've only heard or like well,
Right.
I've only
Photon
heard
Shockwave.
like PTSD from this format.
Yeah, it was
okay,
PTSD. My boy
so
Rescue
the deck
Rabbit.
list,
Yeah.
yeah. So the deck list we're looking at is um Simon Heath's second place list from YCS Long Beach. And obviously like this is a ban list that just happened too, so like a lot of adjustments were changed. And this is basically the first true iteration of a triangle format where Dino Rabbit, Wind Up, and Inzector were the three decks, kind of like Justice Hunters in current day time. And all of them were equally just as good. It's just a matter of what you wanted to pilot. So when we look at this deck's composition at first, there's six vanillas, right? And usually vanillas are like really bad because like they don't do anything. But because Rescue Rabbit exists, those vanillas are broken because they make the best exceeds in the game, which were Evil Zorlagia and Dolka. Like, why did they Konami even make these cards?
They wanted to
Also,
fight
don't
us.
forget, Dolka was a TCG exclusive.
Yeah, see, like, why did they make these cards? Like, I look at like these stats and how do you make them? And you're like, you have to make them with Rescue Rabbits and dinosaurs. So like, what was crazy too is like when you played like tour guide when everyone's playing tour guide in their deck, imagine playing mirror matches and stealing their rabbits.
But like since
Like
I'm someone who didn't get to play in this format because it's before my time. I started 2017, 2018. What made Dino Rabbit feel so unfair? Was it because Rabbit was just a one card into like a judgment monster or like a double negate monster? Like what made it really unfair?
what made it
This
unfair? Um,
yeah. Like
I
for
guess
me,
you can
I
say, oh,
go for it.
like I really think the unfairness was like the boss monsters themselves, right? Like the Lagia is just Solemn Judgment, and then Doka is Gamma that's not once per turn, right? But when your what is it? Your tour guide gets to summon a rabbit back every turn. It's like summoning one exceed or two exceeds at a time, which is just dumb, right? Which is why like Max seasons in everyone's deck. Right? You had a thought, Dakari?
This was a lot of times where I would play test with some of the homies back then, and when they would make Logia and sit on three back row, it was very hard to play around that because they would just either have a warning back there to negate, or you'd have like you're trying to make your play and just trying to even play against Logia was it was frustrating. You just negate,
Like
negate, negate.
imagine like this is the modern day trap deck or mid range deck, but you had like Logia that you summoned and set like 3 to 4 back row, and then that's just really hard to like play through.
Oh, can I
Um,
May I? Okay, I want to talk about a past experience I have.
Go for
This
it.
was
Sure.
pretty traumatic for me. I will always remember this. I was playing wind up at a regional because I was the wind up player. Even though I had Dino Rabbit, I despise that deck. That deck just bored me. So I'm 4-0 at a regional. I play against my first Dino Rabbit opponent. He wins the die roll. Normal summons Rabbit. Summons his two Cobblezools, overlays Logia, sets 5 back row. Says, "Come at me, bro."
What the?
Yeah,
What the?
I
Wait,
will
may
never
I ask?
forget that.
Did he wear a Timo hat?
No. He like whispered it. He like
Okay.
whispered it and thought I wouldn't pick up that I didn't pick up on it.
No, someone
Like
I knew was
yeah,
playing that regional, and he was normally wearing a Timo hat, and he also played the same deck you played against. So that's why I asked.
yeah. No, this was the deck. This was definitely the deck for like for people that for cheese balls. I mean, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Good players did play that deck. Like Patrick Hoban played this deck because he knew it was the best deck. I remember I was at Long Beach and he asked me for Jalenduos because supposedly it gave you an edge in the mirror, right? Because it's Spirit Reaper.
Yeah, yeah, and it's level
Mhm.
4, so like, yeah, the
Yeah.
card's nice. But like that's the thing, right? Like, so you got to remember, right? Like because Tour Guide wasn't reprinted yet, and this was everyone's deck. This deck was also just really expensive off the bat. So
Also, the follow up was explosive, right? You start with Rabbit, you have your Logia, cool. They don't do anything. Follow up with Tour Guide, and now
yeah,
you get
like
another dime,
you get like
and you
Yeah.
another
can either
explosive
OTK
monster.
your opponent or there you have one solemn on the board, and if they have nothing else, then you're about to make another one. Or if you're scared their set is a monster that may clear your Logia, now you have a Dolka and a Logia. How are you beating that?
That's the other thing I want to mention too,
You
right?
don't.
So like people would play like Snowman Eaters in the mirror, and then like the Lagia attacks the Snowman Eater, and that dies.
Not if there's a Dolka on the board.
Not that there's a Dolka, but like that was like the thing about Dino Rabbit is that which do
Al-
you make first? Do you like were
Also,
you
can
making
I
Lagia or
mention
Dolka? Yeah.
like before this list was standardized, there were actually like first rough drafts of this deck where people were running Tengu, they were running Dai-Fi, very primitive lists. Even Gold Sark, because people were trying to turn this into a combo deck where they would go
Oh yeah.
Gold Sark
I
Rabbit,
remember
normal
Adam Core
Tour
doing
Guide,
that.
and to like increase your odds of having like your turn one Logia combo. I remember at locals, I was just experimenting with the deck because I didn't like I just didn't like how simple it was for me, and I wanted to like increase the ceiling of the deck. Yeah, obviously that wasn't the best way to play it, but I was just having
Mhm.
fun with it. Where I was running the Gold Sark just so that I can get my Rabbit, get my Logia, increase the odds of me seeing my turn one Logia play.
Yeah.
Yeah, obvious. Eventually lists got standardized. I remember there was Guaibas in this, but I think they started cutting
Guybrush?
Guaibas because it was weak or something,
No.
right?
No, it was people didn't like it was obviously it was Long Beach, right? So people didn't really explore very much. But I think it was like later in the year, right, as like 2012 goes by, Guayba became more standard by Georgie Orlando.
Okay, so I'm a
So
bit curious. Like, what other engines were people trying to force in? Because like eventually, like the format solves itself, and the cleanest version eventually becomes the most effective one. One card pressure, whatever. Dino just got scarier once like people stopped overcomplicating it. But I'm very curious. Like, what were some of the engines back then that was like running the show?
um mainly tour guide was like the like it would this was the premium
People
like
did try
format.
Tengu.
Yeah. Hmm. Cause
There,
like
there
Tengu
was
was like
some Tengu in the deck,
right.
but it
Um
wasn't good.
yeah, but like the thing was is that like the dinosaurs were like the exclusive like vanillas you got to play to make Ibosaurs it exceeds to make every turn. Because that's the other thing too, right? Like you're playing like this mid-range deck. So a lot of the times your turns, like when you don't open up like Rabbit or Tour Guide, you just have to summon like a vanilla and set like 3 to 4 and like play control until you got to another dinosaur. Like what was odd to me at some point was like everyone just played 3 Waiba. Looking back, would there be a world where like people played Fossil Dig, or was that considered too much engine?
Nah, people played Fossil Dig too.
Yeah, but like you would but like the lack of like quote unquote like utility cards in your deck would be weakened because you played more engine. So that's just
Okay,
something
wait.
that like
So
when you consider
that
it.
that doesn't make sense to me. Why would you play
What
Fossil
we
Dig
what
if
we
it's
call in
vanilla? Like,
modern
would you
day
normal? Would you
now
normal summon vanilla?
non-engine.
Yeah, like you would like in a lot of these games, like you didn't open like Tour Guide or Rabbit. You literally just normal summon Saber Swords or Cobblezals and like set 2 to 3 back row and passed. You played like literally big old
Yeah,
school control
you're
Yu-Gi-Oh.
non-engine.
Really?
Yes.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing that kind of bothers us, right? When you're playing like this type of strategy already, when everyone else is either comboing or making explosive plays, which is like Rhine up or Exector, right? You would think like, why is this considered the best deck in the room, right?
Probably the
By just
consistency,
modern
right?
standards, it got to play the most defense, as people would call it, right? So this was a deck where like it could play like 3 Maxi,
You got
3
to play the
Veiler,
most
right?
games.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. All the other decks bricked because
Yeah,
Wind Up was a 2 card combo deck.
it's because this
The
deck gets to play the most games. Inzector was a 2-card combo deck.
Yeah. So all the other decks like required like 2 to 3 card combos, while this deck could just play like a normal game of Yu-Gi-Oh until you saw like another monster to pair to make an exceed.
Okay, so by like modern standards, then like just looking at it, it feels very low ceiling. But like as the format progresses and like in a triangle format, if the Dino Rabbit cards traded evenly, they usually just came out ahead because it's so much more consistent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So later
It's
in
the most
turns, like
stable deck. It's the most
it's the
stable
most,
deck you
yeah,
could play in the format.
right. And you can see the Simon his side deck too, which is what we're looking at it here. Like obviously there's like 3 macro just to beat Inzector and like Wind Up in Dark World, which won the event. Like there's 2 Thunder Kings to ensure that like you play in the mirror. Cyber Dragons are meant to bait the back row. Um, there's a 1 Black Horn of Heaven, which becomes like this thing people are gonna be doing moving forward, but like uh that's something that like I think Simon he like realized like when he was playing. Um yeah, and then so as we progress through the year, let's get to the NAWCQ. And that's where like Sebastian, you like this deck.
Yeah, of
So
course,
this
it's
is
my favorite deck.
this is your specialty, right? So like so what's his name? Tyler Toblin, he wins the NAWCQ with this deck. So for
Yep,
anyone who
Tyler
doesn't know what
Tapman.
windup does, yeah. So anyone who doesn't know what windup does, so the big combo deck, it basically you open Magician Shark and you just hand loop your opponent. So
Close.
like yeah, no, it's dumb. So like read up. So there's a card right next to the tour guide called Wind Up Hunter. Please read that.
I love how this is not once per turn.
So it's a
Yeah.
soft once per turn, right? So that the way this card reads. So a lot of the time, so read Wind Up Rat. That card is the reason why this deck functions. Um, so essentially, like you summon Rat from your deck, right? Off the Exceed, and then you use this Wind Up Rat to reborn your Hunter. And then Exceed again. Like this card is just dumb. So imagine being able to like hand rip for like 3, right? And then they're top decking.
Okay, so I'm a bit curious. So I see that the infamous Zen Mighty is still banned. And I always hear the discussion, oh, ban Hunter, bring back Zen Mighty. Would that fix Wind Up at all?
Yes,
Yeah.
every time.
Undoubtedly. You would hear the horror stories come back and people would just be like, why did we
Like
bring that back?
like so here's what I want to get at, right? So you know how like Maxi's in the format? Okay, so think of it this way. So you would ideally you would want to main Maxi because like it beats the wind up deck. You don't get hand looped, right? But what happens when you play versus what is that deck? Dino Rabbit, right? Where like half the time they don't even
I know
resolve
Rabbit.
Maxi.
Or even
Yeah.
Chaos Dragon. Even
Oh,
Chaos
Chaos
Dragon.
Dragon too. Like you can't resolve Maxi because they're just playing this slow roll game with you because that's how their deck develops. So like turn one, Maxi's not good. So like when you're looking at like this composition, right? I think it's only Valor that's in the main deck. There's like Gores, so you don't get OTK'd. And you're just playing this like regular slow roll Yu-Gi-Oh with your opponent. And then you just side for the other decks.
Yeah, so like in this format, for this WCQ, like how much did deck building get warped by like needing to respect wind up hand loops while still like not breaking against like Dino Rabbit or Chaos Dragon?
It just felt 50-50, honestly. Like, because Chaos Dragon was like a structure deck that like kind of like took over after that one YCS that got second. So like,
No.
like Maxi wasn't very good, but like if you're gonna play like a consistent deck for Swiss, it had to be Dino Rabbit for the most part. So when people took advantage of that, I think Windup was able to take over this event because no one made Maxi. So when you win the roll, like you could just hand loop them for free.
Dan, you also forgot to mention that priority was taken away.
Oh, this was a
So now,
huge deal
so
back then.
that was huge. It made Dino Rabbit vulnerable now. It means you can Baylor a rescue rabbit now. Or
Yeah, that
and
I think
now they
that's the most
can't
important.
make their Logia.
I think that's the most important factor in all this is that priority was a huge deal in Edison and like leading up to this event, but the moment 2012 happened, priority was taken away, right? So when you didn't have to max see them, you could just have Baylor became like the premium like hand trap of choice.
Yeah, so I'm a bit confused for the timeline because the last deck we looked at was also 2012. This is 2012. Was that change implemented before the WCQ? Like what happened?
Um, was it? I think it was like sometime like end of 2011, priority changed. So like
It was
or
before the
early 2012.
WCQ. Yeah,
It was for the
for sure.
WCQ for sure then, yeah. So
Yeah, it was
because
early
of that, like
2012. It was
yeah,
early
early
2012.
2012. Yeah. So when that happened, like Yu-Gi-Oh changed forever. So like decks like Lightsworn, like or like decks with Dark Arm Dragon became like less powerful because like you couldn't like use priority and nuke the board or whatever. Now like everyone has a chance to respond, which makes Valor good.
Yeah, JD called priority was annoying to hear.
So so seeing that like Valor became the premium hand trap in this format now that we're looking at, like Maxi became like a little less powerful. What else is there? Another big thing that I noticed was instant fusion became more of a staple moving forward. Cause like there was like it was like a premium extender you could play. Like it's just being having like what Cybersaurus and like the the Dragon Knight thing. Just having like extra levels to work with that are flexible became like a really big power piece. I really wish Tyler played 3 because that's probably how you play through hand traps more often. But we're not in an era yet where like hand traps are like abundant yet, as per se. Um, Other than that, yeah, like so by default, right? Like wind up like for this WCQ was probably the choice to play because Maxi was like getting out of everyone's deck. Um, so obviously Worlds like I believe in Zector one, right? If I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously Worlds happens, new ban list, right? So we have to talk about what redo format, right? That's like the next big like retro deck people were playing about, and in that side, I remember it was the premiere of Geargia.
The next list?
Yeah, Nexus, yeah. So this deck was piloted by Crystal Block, which is his first win, if I remember. And the Gear cards just came out, right? So like this was just like an scene mechanic that was like very good stuff. So this was also a deck that like didn't really care about Maxi because like Gear Arsenal was like one of the best like starter cards in the format where you can just summon that card, tribute it, you get Maxi, you set armor, you summon armor, set it, and then now you can just set back row, and then like you get to play normal Yu-Gi-Oh with your opponent. You don't have to explode on them. So like this is a deck where like people who wanted to play Maxi game 1 get super punished for it. Um Another thing was we also had like this was another it kind of this feels like the zombie deck from 2009, like the Diva Zombie deck, where like this is a setup deck where like you now have ways to search your tuners. So Gideon X was like an Exceed that was like super premium in the sense that like you can add back tuners from your grave on top now. So like you can start making big plays and resource manage really well. So cards like Birdman, cards like Birdman was the tuner of choice. Accelerator is like not a once per turn to special summon. So you now have like Exceeds to set up to make big synchro plays, which is like unheard of in this format. Um and that's kind of like what we and then we also see that in redo, right? There's just a bunch of other decks in the format too. So there's like Gravekeeper, there's still like Insector, Windup, the Dino Rabbit too, but like Yu-Gi-Oh was like the next big thing moving forward for a lot of people. Jakari, you played this deck at some point, right?
I did, and especially
Yeah,
when Soul Charge came out. Oh baby, it was
yeah,
still hot.
yeah, yeah. We'll get to that, but like but like at this first current iteration of like the format, right? Like of like going into a new era of Exceeds where they're more abundant. Like seeing Gear like thrive and like this early on was like something like unheard of, especially
Yeah,
LeBlanc too, because LeBlanc was a kid at this point. Like so to imagine to have his first win, like as like one of the youngest YCS champions to ever exist, to see where he is now, this is his first win. Um, see.
Interesting. Okay, so I'm a
Yeah.
bit curious then.
So
Like, is this where like Yu-Gi-Oh started to feel like a bridge deck where Xyz gave it consistency and Synchros gave it like a ceiling?
yeah, so like that was kind of like a thing, right? Like Yu-Gi X was just generic, and the Yu-Gi deck was able to just pop this card out for free. So obviously, like kind of like the Diva deck, where like you need to set up a bit and play turns. But the moment you got all the pieces together, you can start like exploding on your opponent. Like, and especially with the card career cards too, which they just summon the guys from deck. You're able to just spam the board for free. Also, another thing that comes up in this format that moving forward, Shockmaster was a big deciding factor in this format.
Unlock the shock.
Um,
Okay,
this
I hate
card,
this card.
this card's
I always
dumb.
see this card like in panelist discussions. It's like, oh, this can come back. No, it cannot.
no, it can't.
Yeah.
Please
So
don't.
like Geargia can summon like like spam a bunch of monsters on the field, and like you can make this for free every time. Like every deck was able to do it, but like Geargia I think could do it like one of the best. I think. Um. Yeah. So this is like end of 2012, right? So we're going into like 2013 now, which is the next deck list. We're going to like premium Yu-Gi-Oh at its finest.
Oh, it's the water deck.
So the water deck, Mermail, right? So this list I have here actually, um, Taj, you know this person. This is Johnny's deck. He played at San Diego. He topped.
Shout out to Johnny. He got me my first invite by carrying me after he beat my ass at a regional.
Yeah. So like what was interesting about this format, right? As the format has like the format's gone by, so Fire Fist also came into the format too, and then this became a two deck format between Fire and Water. Like you still had like other decks like Evil Swarm and like Geargia, but like it was mainly just Fire and Water that took like majority of the slots. Um, and the crazy thing about the Mermail deck at this point, I think Tails was a TCG exclusive, right? If I recall. So that card
Yeah,
just
yes, it
changed the
was.
whole dimension of the deck.
KS was a TCG exclusive.
Yeah, so this is where like TCG exclusives become like a really big thing in Yu-Gi-Oh at this point, because like whenever OCG doesn't have, we get to play it. So like this became our meta deck for like a hot minute.
Wait, hold on.
Um,
What card was the TCG exclusive?
uh, Abyss Teus,
It's TS.
level 7, first row.
Ah,
This card. This was our exclusive, if I remember. So this card's dumb because now like you have like a card like an
Yeah.
Anti Dragoons you like that was like the premium combo, right? Teus just dump Dragoons and then search.
Yep. Yes,
OCG
sir.
was actually OCG because they didn't have Teus. They had to play Gen X Undyne, so they didn't have the privilege of playing mono Mermail. This is that like before we got to this list. There, the version of Mermail that was being played was they were running 3 Gen X Undyne, or yeah, it was 3 Undyne with like 2 controller engine, and there was a like some would even tech like an alert, a darkness or two. It was slower until we got Teus, which I believe we got that in Cosmo Blazar.
Yeah, like we
And
got this
then
exclusive for San Diego.
yeah,
And
so that's why we're able to get like a fully realized Mermail. OCG didn't have the privilege of that.
yeah. So another big thing that I noticed about this deck, because like Johnny played it, was he played Deep Sea Diva, like, and obviously everyone played it, right? But like this was like a big starter card in the deck because like it got you infantry and got you like marksman and stuff. But Johnny did something that like was really good and like later in the WCQ, which is he cited deck devastation virus. Because one diva equals Catastor, which nukes like a bunch of like these rogue decks. Which I think he should have just played multiple when he knew that, but like that was something really cool that I looked at. Um Another big thing was like he played like 3 MST because like there was so much fire or Fire Fist and Mermail that like catching tankies or like abyss fears off everyone was like I think the move for this event. Um Another big thing that people were doing was like the Bahamas Shark and Shrike combo. That was like super big because ensure that your deck floats. And then you if you got to Dragoon, right, like you can like do a bit was it Bahamas Shark detach Dragoons and then you get to search, which is like dumb. Um
Yeah, so did anyone
but
in the call today play this deck at all?
I think some
um
of it, not a lot.
I did.
uh
I played this deck. This was also one of my favorite decks.
Okay, so Sebastian, I have a quick question for you. So when the format became Fire Water as
Sure.
like the 2 deck format, what made Mermail the scarier of the two in practice? Was it just raw ceiling, consistency, or just like how hard it lines, like for it to be stopped? Like were there like choke points that were like difficult to stop, or like what made it the better of the two?
Everything you just mentioned. It was way more consistent. It was way more powerful, and yeah, way harder. I would say way harder to stop. It had way more plays because Fire Fist really only had like maybe 2 actions a turn. Normal summon Bear, and then if they hard drew like the Tensu, the continue spell that lets them have an extra normal summon. Also, the fact that Mermail has a lot of floaters, so it's like hard to even attack. It's hard to even get damage in, right? You try to attack him with Bear to do damage to set your spell. You have to run over Abyssland, which is a floater, which floats into like either a Megalo or a Abyss Lead. Also, the trap card Sphere could just summon a Lin too. Or you could just summon a beater. You could just straight up summon Megalo or Lead. Now they can't run it over, and now they have to go main phase 2. So yeah, this deck was way more complex, had a higher ceiling.
yeah.
I think
Something that
overall just better. So the thing is, Fire Fist had needed its side deck. They needed to side cards like Banisher, the Radiance, Dimensional Fissure. They couldn't play macro because they can't get their the effects of their monsters to pop cards because they need to send the spells to the grave to either pop monster. So also, yeah, they were limited in like what tools they could use to counter Mermail.
right.
So if anything,
Like
the counter deck to Mermail was actually Dino Rabbit. Dino Rabbit was actually still playable. If anything, so when I played that format, for me, that Fire Fist deck I thought was free. That matchup was actually free because I know my deck was better than theirs. I would say Macro Rabbit, Dino Rabbit was actually the matchup that I think countered my deck, right? Because they can play macro. They can like
Yeah,
they probably were maining macro since Mermail was
yeah,
the driving force of the meta.
right. Something I want to
So
mention too is like Sebastian just said this deck is harder to play, right? So like people like Jeff and Billy innovated the deck, and like
skill
this
ceiling,
deck was
yeah.
really truly reserved for like the best players. So speaking of one of the best players, let's go on to what happened at the NAWCQ because that is what
Oh
changed
boy.
Yu-Gi-Oh forever.
Oh yikes! I am terrified of these cards.
All right, so
Ooh,
we're looking at
my
Patrick Hoban's
favorite.
deck. So this is his first win, if I recall. And one of the biggest things about the Dragon Ruler deck was like it was the biggest resource management in Yu-Gi-Oh has ever seen because like you neg your hand and then you activate Rejuve and use to add your hand back. And you had like a bunch of bajillion ways to OTK your opponent if not like research manage. But the most important thing is that the exceed mechanic became so ridiculous. Like Draco Sack was the premier like Yu-Gi-Oh card to ever exist at this point in time. Like, why do they make this card? Like, it's removal. It generates tokens for bodies. You get to synchro with the tokens, like to do some crazy stuff. You had Big Eye, which is like brain and mind control in like in a nutshell. Um, and then what was cool is that you get to make like synchros on top. So um a really big thing that happened a lot in this format is Crimson Blader like is what defined Yu-Gi-Oh for the next like I don't know year or so. Cuz that card denied the mirror match if not like spellbook and random other random things. Cuz that cards are this is the card that floodgates everybody. So like if you weren't playing Exceeds like you like I don't know, Evil Swarm or Gear Gear or even Mermail, like you can't you as long as you had level 4 deck you got to play, but if you got to play anything higher, you just get locked out for free. So and then the other thing was that Pat always knew how to play the mirror, which is why there's two emptiness in his main deck. And that was like the deciding factor in how he won this NAWCQ because he knew that like all the dragon rulers added back at end phase, so that the moment like one attack got through or one summon, there'll be like attack and then end phase add stuff back, and then he would just win the mirror. What was it? Another thing was in this format in particular. This format was expensive. Dakari, you remember how expensive these cards were, right?
Yeah, I remember cracking a box of redo that day of LA regionals, just for getting the last of my Evil Swarm cards. Yeah, I pulled the Tempest that day.
Yeah, these rare dragon rulers were $10.
Yeah, and I sold it ASAP.
ten
ASAP.
dollars for rares, right? And then your Draco Sacks and big guys were like, I don't know, give or take 100, if not more.
Yeah,
So like your deck was just expensive, expensive.
and what
Like
was funny was that Big Eye actually used to be a $6 secret until it
yeah,
found use in Mermail and Drake and Dragon Ruler. Yeah,
right.
because it
So
came out in a set. I believe it was what was it, Galactic Overdrive, or
yeah,
That's
it was a
that's an
set in which
Overlord.
Card D came out, and that
Yeah,
yeah, and that was the chase card. Card D was the chase card. And I just remember I was at a sneak peek and I bought a kit and I pulled the Big Eye and I was like, what is this? I was pretty sad because I'm like, I don't think I'll ever summon this until Mermail and then this comes out. So I'm glad I kept it. I had stored it
yeah,
away in bulk,
yeah,
and lo and behold, Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy gets released, and I finally get to put that bad boy to work.
yeah, exactly.
okay,
Like
so
another big
I wanna
thing.
sorry Daniel, I'm gonna cut you off here because this big eye card has always been a mystery for me in the aspect that I've always been told that in the Dragon Ruler mirror, the first person to summon Big Eye loses. Why?
That reason is because if, especially like, if you didn't kill them and then the big guy had to stay, you get to, use your big guy to take their big guy, and if that big guy had material, you get to use that big guy to steal their guy.
Yep.
It's also
So like,
vulnerable to Crimson Blader as well. You give your opponent a body, and now your opponent can just go make a Crimson Blader and kill the big guy too. And now you're locked out of a turn.
yeah, and that's like the thing, right? In this format, where it's like you just make sure that you made enough bodies to like live, but then if you keep one body at all, if one Crimson Blader connected, game over. So I think the other, since this is tier 0 at this point, the other two decks were in contention to beat Dragon Ruler was Spellbook and Evil Swarm. And like, as you can see, like there's erads for like the Spellbook deck, because like you just need to make one big eye and then you just erad them for, and then the life savings are gone. And then for Evil Swarm, um there was only one out in this deck, I think, and that was like you you Blaster pitching like Flamebolt Guard.
Yeah, you better blaster me. Otherwise, I'm winning.
Yeah.
And I was
So
winning.
yeah. Because like, what is it? Evil Swarm had what, manifestation, and that was like unaffected by spells or traps or whatever. So you needed monster outs.
Yeah.
There was
There were
also,
actually people that used to tech Electric Virus.
yeah, E-Virus was helpful.
Oh yeah, for Terminus and stuff. Yeah, that was also a thing.
Because you could
And
also use it in the
then
mirror too. It flexed as a card you could side in the Dragon Ruler mirror as well.
yeah, you like stealing their Jericho stacks so that you can just generate your own tokens and pop their back row. That was nice.
And then the
Um,
preemptive Forbidden Dress just to make sure they didn't blaster it. Yet you were left vulnerable.
yeah. It was like one of those things where like the Dragon Ruler mirror was so complex that like deck building became like a, I think, a really integral part for this entity of BCQ. Um, Speaking of, deck building, right? A ban list happens, right? They banned all the babies. So what does Dragon Ruler do next? And this is, to me, my favorite version of the Dragon Ruler deck, the Ravine Ruler. So the new premier like field spell to play now is Ravine. And that card literally says discard a dragon, dump a dragon, right? So now this becomes like this resource game where like whoever's, and then this is also the field spell ruling from back then too, where like if you have a field spell and they slap their own field spell, your field spell dies.
Wait, really? That sounds terrible.
Yeah. So imagine, right? Like if you went first in the mirror, that sucked, because now like even though you set up, you don't have your ravine for next turn. So so a big thing that Billy Brick innovated with this deck was I think at some point Trigon gets released, and this card was like a premium dragon monster that had debris dragon stats. So like what's cool is that you can um discard a dragon to dump Trigon, debris dragon it, make ancient fairy dragon, pop field spells, even if it's your opponent, to search your own ravine again.
Yeah, so I
So
also see my favorite Synchro Monster, Star Eater, in this list. That's cool.
yeah, so this card also gets released at some point, and like that card's like really cool to make because like they can't like, the thing is, I wouldn't say unkillable, but like if you got to swing at stuff, that card's just really big, right?
Mhm.
And the summon can't get negated, which is super huge. So like people, cards like Solemn Judgment and Warning become like unaffected by this card. So this card usually gets to swing through or whatever, which is like cool.
There are a lot of trap cards
Um,
in this side deck that I'm curious about.
sure. So the first card that comes up to mind in the side deck for traps is Debunk. And this card was like really crazy because this made it so that like this is called Bond the Grave in old Yu-Gi-Oh. So like think Maxi Baylor just gets negated, right? or a dragon ruler or whatever. Like this iteration of Call by the Grave, but it's a counter trap. Um, Another thing that comes up is DNA surgery. So this makes so basically it's a floodgate card that lets you like change all the types, right? So a big thing that comes up against for this matchup is spellbook because they need all their cards to be spellcaster. So when you change their cards to like dragon, they just lose.
It's terrible.
So I yeah, so
Yeah,
this
but
card is just crazy.
honestly, after the banning of Spellbook of Judgment, Spellbook was not that great.
Yeah, like that was the weird thing.
Another card in the side deck I'm
It
very curious about
actually like
is
fell
the
off.
Encore.
Players were afraid of the deck, but yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay. What about Encore?
Encore.
Because like I
So
don't see a lot of XPs in this deck. So like what were people scared of
um
back then?
so the counter pick to this matchup was Evil Swarm. So you just hope to not queue into that matchup per se. And long story short, like this beats Ophion every time because they can't chain manifestation.
I did not
So
like that
You'd
card.
get the occasional Constellar player as well.
yeah,
You know,
you get those people hopefully, but like
it was an all right deck.
well
Like like it was it was actually an Exceed deck that had rank
um
4s and rank 5s, but the star
um
monster of the deck was rank 5 Constellar
um
Pleiades, which
um
is quick effect Compulse.
right. So another card that comes up because like this is like one of modern Yu-Gi-Oh's like horrors whatever is Abyss Dweller. So like when Mermail was consistently making that card turn one, you had turn player priority to encore it away.
Gotcha.
So
All right.
yes, yeah. So obviously
Well,
like
even Abyss
another
Gaios too, right?
yeah even Abyss
Taking
Guys
out
yeah
Abyss
yeah
Gaios.
yeah yeah. So so I want to get to like the fun part of the year, which is 2014, and this is like everyone loves 2014 for Yu-Gi-Oh. Oh look, it's the Mermal deck again. So what was cool about this iteration of Mermail is that so this is when Pat was like the GOAT of Yu-Gi-Oh at this point. Like he was winning everything. So you noticed that like from the previous deck that we saw, it was a bunch of like spells, right? To grind. Now it's like the format slowed down a lot. So Pat would just decided, hey, let's put 3 All-Star Goblin and 3 Reckless Greed in everyone's deck and play the slow roll game. Um what was there? So here's the other thing, right? So Pat was also thinking about like you view this kind of as a slow roll deck where you gather all your pieces to do an OTK, right? So the only way you do that is like you need to have a big hand, right? Because Mermo needs a big hand to play. So cards like Reckless Greed, when you roll it in multiples, you can have a shot to like kill them. I think he played Undyne in his deck too. So like Regeki Break becomes like a little bit more valuable. Um, so another big thing that I noticed in these formats was like Phoenix Chain was getting really popular because as some I felt like Edison was like when it came out wasn't very good. In like Dino Rabbit and like moving forward, the card became more popular as because more turns were being established. You want to take in less attacks. So this card's basically effect veiler that's kind of like let you live potentially, even though like it doesn't feel that great. I think also there was a lot less MST for game one, so like that card became more powerful, right? Um, this was also a format where like free gun was like the staple of the format, like for Mermail. Because you get to loop it every turn, so you get to bring back like level fours or whatever. Abyss gun, the Nemo looking card. Yeah. So this card's crazy. Um, like just being able to like break it away or like you discarding it is like off of a Mermail effects is like, super good. Um, And then another thing was like, oh, see, another one of my favorite cards is Divine Wrath. So that card saw a lot of play again because like, you got to in this. I think this format now like everyone valued bodies, and that you can just pitch it off gun and it gets its effect. So like it becomes like super high value when that card resolves. Um, but also as you notice, right? a really big trend that kept happening was there's no hand traps for game one, and that was like they wanted to play a slower game. And I think that was like one of the biggest directions that I appreciated about like the Yu-Gi-Oh at this point was like people like what would you want to play? Did you want to play more of a like a slow roll game, or do you want to play more fast? And like the seeing more trap cards in Pat's deck, like made me smile a lot.
Okay, so like, was the lack of game one hand traps mostly like a speed issue, where like decks would maximize engine and defensive traps, to then like hold reactive cards that might not line up?
Yeah, it seemed like it because like I remember like Gear picked up in popularity again, Fire Fist picked up in popularity. Essentially like all the decks from 2013, like from what we saw with like San Diego, they all reappeared in this format because both Dragon Ruler
This
and
is the card par
Bubba.
fire format, right?
This is yeah, card eventually becomes part of this deck again. But like, Fire Fist was like the
Not, well,
second
not
best deck.
Mermail, but Fire Fist. Yeah.
Yeah, Fire Fist also
Well,
played
at the
card
beginning
D.
of the format, so I remember. So this was right after when the Dragon Rulers get when Dragon Ruler Ravine Rulers gets nerfed, like Omega
And
nerfed,
it's like Omega
and
Nerf.
the format actually slowed down like a lot. So people started picking up decks like Fire Fist and Spellbook and like really slow decks. And for a while, Fire Fist was perceived to be the best deck. They were running Cards, and it was kind of like a control format until Pat came out and showed that Mermel, there was still something in the combo decks. So he came up with this Mermel deck, and it started getting popular again.
Yeah. Um yeah, so another thing that they discovered was like they reinvented like the whole like Bahamut Strike Turge combo in this list. So
Yeah,
like
this is
they were
pre-hat. Yeah,
this
this
is
is
pre-hat.
pre-hat.
Yeah. So as you see there's like two dweller. Also this was the release of Exciton Knight. And this was like a game changing card in this format. And Honor Arc. Those are the two biggest cards in the format. Um in like being able to have like a rank 4 that's JD at this point, like the card's just crazy. Even if you don't have to take damage, this card's good. Honor Arc was like really cool because like it was one of the few times it's like a different form of removal started to exist. Like you get to put a monster as material. That's just dumb. Um and then I think Lavallo chain I seen a lot more play now because this level 4 rank 4 existing is just Beatrice.
Does
Like
Kurt come back? I'm really
no,
curious on everyone's take.
no, this card is
No.
too broken. Like
Like
and
I
then
will
the
play
other thing
Infinity
too
all over again.
the other thing too is that everyone forgets the second effect, which is putting a card on top. I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a lot of cards in Yu-Gi-Oh that say draw two, and then you can just like you can just sculpt the hand you wanted. So this card's just crazy. Um, I think another big thing that I want to talk about, like not being exceeds, but it did warp the format a little bit too, was Leo. This card like changed Yu-Gi-Oh for this year as well because um this was one of the first few monsters that was just big, but didn't get targeted. Yeah, the synchro. Um, you can only target it in main phase 2. So like they were very limited outs to this card, and not every exceed can do it. So like just having access to this was crazy.
Yeah.
Um um
Would you make
and
this?
now
Fire Fist was a deck that their removal was all targeting, so they can't really out this. They had to go to main phase 2 just to pop it
yeah, so a lot of the time what you do in this deck is
with
like you go
Bear.
like you have a level 7, typically title, and then Gen X controller.
I'm so intrigued by this. This is
Yeah, I
like,
know, it's
it,
really
it
random.
doesn't even feel like a floodgate, but it was for this format.
Like this is the way you got to stay alive at a lot of the time when you're like you're top decking whatever. This was like premium boss monster for this format. Speaking of the rest of the gear, um, so we're going into the end of Exceeds at this point. And this next deck list is hey look, it's Corey McDuffie's deck. Um, So this is the infamous half format we're all talking about now, right? So kind of like Dino Rabbit, this was like a premium control deck that the hands were just like premium Yu-Gi-Oh cards, right? These revolutionized Yu-Gi-Oh for like I don't know how long, because these cards say when they get destroyed, pop something and summon the other one from deck, and they're not once per turn. So imagine people playing combo boards and they left their stuff in attack mode, and you just ram hands and go 1 for 4.
Yeah, baby.
The other thing I want to mention too is that so people were still setting cards back then like this. So imagine you running into a hand yourself. So like and they're level 4, right? So like even if like they stay alive, they're just material for like the rest of your exceeds that you make. Um
But like
Another big thing.
that's not the real elephant in the room. It's the soul charge, right?
Oh, okay, so yeah, that's the other thing. That's the misconception of this format. So Soul Charge was like so cool in the sense that like this was like the Giga extended Yu-Gi-Oh needed to modernize itself, right? You see in this deck list there's only one of them, and I think it's because like Corey McDuffie wanted to play a slower game and didn't want this card dead, so he only played one. But like all the other decks that were combo decks like Infernity, Sylvan, Mermail, even Dragon Ruler, I played this 3 in my Gear deck, and this is what defined the format in reality. Like if you couldn't beat their Soul Charge, you had to play it yourself. Um, and then another big thing about this deck list was I believe Corey McDuffie was also a Magic player that was playing a lot of Pro Tours. So when he came to Yu-Gi-Oh, that he played one regional and like he gets his invite, and then he can play the NAWCQ and then he wins it. So he becomes this like household name for like a few years.
I think
Um,
that's the first time I've ever heard a person from a different card game come to Yu-Gi-Oh and do really well. I feel like nowadays it's the opposite. Everyone goes to like Riftbound, they go to Pokemon, they play all these other card games. But this is like the first time I've ever heard like the reverse.
yeah. So that was like a big thing, right? Um, so here's the other thing now too, right? There's no tuners in this deck, right? So we're now at like the peak of exceeds at this point. So everything you see here is typically utility. If it just so happens that like what is it? Corey McDuffie had a giant hand. And this was a prize card, so like to have him in this deck list is like bizarre. Um, the other thing that like caught my eye, like cards like Carnagorgon and was Black Ship of Corn were like premium Yu-Gi-Oh rank 4s that like changed the way this format played out. Because there was a lot of targeting, or like you needed like non-destruction removal of this format. So having both those cards in your extra deck was like super good. Um, yeah. So Um, Another thing that kind of like defined the format too was like the trap trick cards, and these cards were like the best like +1s in Yu-Gi-Oh at this point in time as well, because like Mermello just sets like bottomless or like trap trick apple nightmare, and then Dioneo was like debris dragon, but for specifically the trap trick monster, which is Mermello, right? So like you don't want to dead draw this, but like when you resolve it, it's really good. Um, I think the last card, and we were talking about this earlier the other day, is that Artifact Molotek was like a really big like staple in this format. Because like it was the first like non-targeting destruction to ever exist. Um,
Oh,
and
dude,
that was like
Dusk
a big
Attack.
thing
Holy
too.
cow. I have
Yeah,
never
yeah.
noticed that. I always thought this card targeted.
So when people found out about this card, like it was so crazy because this beats Leo, right? Because that card says you can was like can't be targeted, right? But this card beats it. So that card got power crept. It's also level 5, so you make Pallades. You can play it. You can summon it off of your opponent's turn off Sanctum. Um, People played like hands and stuff as well. So like imagine like your ice hand gets popped. You pop their back row and it's Mortal Attack. It just feels so bad. So like imagine like playing a back row format where no one has to is really scared to pop their back row because artifacts and hands exist.
I mean, I would pop it
Right.
anyway. Screw it.
There we
Right.
go. That's like the
See,
maximum
yeah,
challenge.
see, that's the misconception, right? You should just pop it, but the moment you run into it, the game changes, right? Which is why like Wiretat's in the format too. Like I think Corey only played one in his main deck and sided it because he didn't want to dead draw it. But I know like what is it, Dion Anchorag's deck who got second, he played two of it. Because like the premise of the format is no one's playing MST game one realistically, so because you want to beat like all the trap cards that get flipped up. But Corey McDuffie decided to play 3 MST in this deck, so he doesn't lose to like random floodgates, I guess.
What are the random floodgates for hat format?
Emptiness, Macrocosmos, Soul Drain, Dimensional Fissure, like those are the more popular ones, right? I think Goes and Rivalry were like the more niche ones, but like they were still played. Um, Another thing that comes up is again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. You saw Debunk in like the Dragon Ruler deck. It pops up now again because like hands existed. This was like Solemn Strike at this point in time as well. That's like so the cards is really good. Um, what else is there? But yeah, like so this
This deck
ending.
was like really hard to beat.
Oh, this is another thing I wanted to mention, Charles. So this is the like Dino Rabbit in 2014. This is the same analogy. Like, this is the deck that got to play every game.
Yeah,
So like think of it this way, right?
because you look at it, what do you side against it? It was really hard to side against it.
it was so hard. Like you needed to be playing floodgates on like I said, like Soul Drain, Macrocosmos, Di-Fi. Like not every deck could play it. Um but then like it was just like a or like you had to make like Dweller every game, right? Because like you didn't want to like like you want to run into a hand like you don't want your cards getting blown up or whatever. So like that was like kind of interesting. But like all the other like combo decks, right? Like they were like 2 to 3 card combo decks, and those were inconsistent, right? So when your deck just gets to play normal Yu-Gi-Oh when every hand is almost live, with like set a hand, set 4 or 5 back row, and like even against established boards, you just break it and you just grind.
I don't see
Um,
why this is a beloved format. This looks like terrible to play. Like the mirror match had to be awful.
it
It was
was literally
awful.
who was better. Like
It
they
was
literally
awful.
like dude like the final of this tournament was a hat final.
Yeah, this looks awful to
But
play. I can't imagine
yeah,
doing 15 rounds of this. There's no way.
yeah, like and then half the people are playing combo decks, so it's like this like you
I,
have to like think
I
out of your
hated this
mind.
format.
Yeah,
I did not enjoy this format.
like in reality, I didn't like this format either because like there's just you have to play the sword charge decks when you don't have Maxi, and then if you had Maxi in your deck, you just play the control deck, so like you can't really like prep for this tournament like pretty well, I guess. But like obviously like Corey made it on top with something like this with like little to no Yu-Gi-Oh knowledge. So I was like, this is very impressive. But for someone who's like been playing Yu-Gi-Oh for a long time, like this will turn people off. But I do think that like the better players in this format like went on top, which what happened. But this was like the end of Exceeds for the most part, right? So what do we think about like these last couple of years that we just witnessed?
I mean, like I see the problem on why neither of you enjoy this format because like that's what kind of makes it so miserable in hindsight. Like the combo decks had soul charge blowouts, but the control deck punished you for overloading on reactive cards. So like deck building felt like really trapped in the middle. And it's like one of those formats where being slightly wrong in construction mattered almost as much as like actually playing.
Yeah. Um, and like that's kind of like the thing where I see Corey with Corey's deck. Like he played 3 Upstart Goblin and 3 Duality to increase consistency, while like I think yeah some other people didn't play Upstart at all. Like just play more trap cards. So it really just depended on what approach you had. For the most part, and that's why like when like you got rewarded in these like last couple formats when you played like a lot for intricacies and like just the small things. And that's where like all these tech cards comes in, right? And I felt that like if the more people played in these formats, like you see like their deck building is like refined. And yeah, like that's I think that's it for like Exceeds for the most part. Like yeah, how did we like really like think over the years have changed? Like did Yu-Gi-Oh like really change for the better with Exceeds becoming more of like a permanent more of was it the primary mechanic, or did it get worse?
I think it aged well for the most part.
Yeah,
I
because
liked it.
like yeah, because like dude, this is a timeline where like tuners weren't really necessary, but like they were just still part of the format depending on which deck you played. Like it just these like it became more of a toolbox for Xyz, which is what I really liked.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of
Um,
what makes the Xyz Arrows like so interesting overall, right? It because it starts off as this like really elegant toolbox mechanic, and then by the end of it, where we are now with the hat deck, it became like a backbone for both like fair mid-range decks and some like absolutely disgusting payoff cards. So I think the mechanic itself aged really well, but the card design around it got way more polarizing as time went on.
yeah, like when I saw like from like 2013 to 2014 like card pool, I was like, these cards are insane. Like, like I would never imagine like was it Yu-Gi-Oh has gotten to this point. Um, and then as of right now, any closing thoughts, takeaways?
It was nice to reminisce on good days.
Yeah,
Was it really the good days, man? I feel like the last like 3, 4 deck lists we looked at is like just
Oh
cancer
no,
and
those are
AIDS.
horrible. All right. We had jokes where we like made jokes of how horrible the format was. Like here, we did the like a little dumb trick outside of like regionals where we'd light our hand with a lighter and rubbing alcohol and like, look, I got a fire hand. So it was horrible. Yeah,
You guys are
yeah,
crazy. What?
yeah. You've never, yeah, yeah. Like I was like joking around because of how traumatizing it was to play in that.
yeah. I think like looking at like I really like 2012 just because like even though it was so expensive, like all the like Data Rabbit being like so like the best deck was so tamed in reality, right? Like that was the best deck for like a hot like year, right? Um I like Murmur a lot. Like I like Murmur a lot.
I mean,
But
my
like
takeaway from this so far is like the early XC stuff felt really cool to look at, but once we started going into Dragon Ruler, sheer Soul Charge, and then this hat deck, it became a lot easier to respect the power level than actually just like wanting to play the format. It's a fascinating era, but not always a fun one for the most part, it seems like.
yeah.
Yeah.
Steve has anything? Like, any takeaways?
Um, yeah, no, it's amazing how certain cards I think were just way ahead of their time, and I think cards like Dweller, it's amazing like how the repercussions that card has had on our game for years. How long? Let's see. Dweller got banned. Was it this? It
It
was
got
last
banned.
year, right?
It got
2025.
banned in 2025.
It got
That
banned in
sounds that sounds
2025.
like so wrong. I feel like Dwella got banned forever ago.
It should have been banned like way earlier, but
It
it
should have
wasn't.
been banned, but it wasn't. It took that and Bahamut Shark. Those cards were made how many years ago? Like
Over a
14 years
decade
ago.
and it aged well.
Yep.
And look at how long they've. Yeah,
Yeah,
cards like Dweller,
so
cards
like
like Bahamut, Laval Chain. I think they knew that card was ban worthy.
yeah, like a lot of
That
these
card was pretty
cards
obvious.
aged really well. Like as like Yu-Gi-Oh, as like progressed per se, but like yeah, like looking back, I'm like, oh my god, these cards were game breaking.
I mean, I feel like out of all the deck lists we saw, the only card that comes to my mind that aged really well is Exoton Knight. Simply because it's like, all right, cool, you make it, blow up the board, now you got Fiends for the combo.
Yeah, that's to this day is still dumb.
Now you
I
have
don't know why this one's here,
yeah.
but it exists. So like
Actually,
yeah,
Exoton was banned at one point. This
I
card was
Right.
remember.
banned at one point.
Yep.
So
It got
How did
banned
it get
once, which
banned?
was funny.
2 level 4s.
I can't be a
That's all I
purpose.
had to say.
They
Another
probably thought
JD.
it was too strong for its power level. Right? Exoton gets banned before Abyss Dweller.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's the
okay,
Yep.
crazy part.
that's what I'm saying. Like, why would it get banned? Like, what did it do something like so egregious that it got banned before Dweller?
Like
General JD.
I
it,
think
it
this is the I think this was a time when OCG, like our ban list had to mirror OCG, right? It was still that
No, no,
like,
no, no. It was
oh,
2013. Like when, like right, Ravine Ruler came out. That's when the list split.
okay.
So this is like after that for that event. But like, oh my god, yeah, like Exciton at this point in
Yeah,
time,
they
like
probably thought the
ridiculous.
power level of the card was too much. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's why I feel like it aged so well. It was meta staple in the toolbox, got banned, came back. Now it's a niche pick. That's definition of aging well, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Like Dweller, oh my god, Dweller had to go like for like ever since like tier I think, but like
I still think some of these cards are cool though. Like I have a friend who plays Mitsurugi in advance, modern day, and he runs cards like Rhapsody and Berserk. I used to like me. I thought that's a cool card too, right? Because it banishes cards from your opponent's graveyard. It's
oh
a card that
that's
interacts with your
how
opponent's graveyard. This is
yeah
a
this
cool
is
card.
also yeah this also lets you beat Leo because the 200 boost is crazy.
Matters so much.
It mattered so like yeah it was
Yeah,
so crazy dude. Like
this is a
imagine
cool
being able to
utility
like
card.
yeah imagine DD crowing stuff so they can't
And,
slow charge.
yeah, you know what? I think in modern, maybe this should have been a quick effect. I think Rhapsody and Berserk would have been so cool if it were a quick effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
because it
I'm a
Because
wasn't.
bit
then it'd be
curious
like
though.
a cool.
Hmm.
When did Quick Effect
Go
become
for
like
it.
standardized?
Um, the thing the weird thing was is that like the that didn't get standardized till like a little after like 2017 I think, because like that's where like the text changed by a lot, right? So like I remember like Zodiac, right, being like the premium exceed deck at this point in time, like that was like having a quick effect Dryden to pop something was so crazy, like in response to an effect.
No, I kind of agree with
So
Sebastian. This Rhapsody card would be so much cooler as a quick effect.
yeah, like card design, like I wish these cards like were made a little bit better, but like just for more complexity. But these are the times like we're doing at this
Yeah.
point. So
Like
um,
it's a card that interacts with the opponent's graveyard, and it's fair, right? It's not like Dweller where it's like, oh, you just you're locked for the whole turn. Like this is something that could have an impact, right? Like if you play against Mermail and you DD Crow their Mermails that they send for cost, they won't be able to activate on the next chain because they left location.
yeah, and that was like a big thing back then too. Like people played Crow just to avoid that.
But so
Um,
back then you had, yeah. So instead, yeah, but going back to that, you had to use cards like Dweller to keep decks like Mermail from killing you. Or,
yeah,
but a card like Rhapsody and Berserk, like that, that would have been a good tool to have. Or it's like, oh, hey, it's another card I can make that doesn't necessarily have to be Dweller. But
yeah,
you know, because that's the thing. I think that's the problem that we have with card design is like we make cards that are like way too overpowered that either do way too much or way too little. Like we need something that's like, oh, what's the mid ground? What's the mid? Where can we meet in the middle? Where this is great at, it doesn't necessarily stop my opponent from playing, but it's good at, you know, it's great at defending myself, or it's really good at stopping my opponent. But
right,
they still have a chance to, there's still some chance for expression, for being able to outplay, as opposed to, oh, I just couldn't play at all.
Yeah, I
right,
think
and
that's
that's
one of the
something that
clearest
like
differences then. Like a card like Rhapsody like interacts with the graveyard. Dweller just shuts it off completely. So like one creates decisions and the other one just removes them entirely. And I think finding the middle ground is where we would find balance.
speaking of balance, right? Like that's the thing about like this whole thing of exceeds, right? Like they were testing the ground of like, hey, we don't need a tuner. Let's make like exceeds to like see where Yu-Gi-Oh could be in the next like 5 to 10 years. Which then goes on to our next topic. They 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 wanted to make fusion good. But that's another day. That's for another day. But looking at this,
Oof.
right, like Doomsday
Well,
is like the current iteration of like the exceed mechanic at the moment, right? And obviously, right, like the when you need an exceed, you need like two of the same level, right? Doomsday is the only exception where like this kind of feels like Noble Knight, where you can just use a equip spell and then they rank up for free because the equip spell becomes an exceed material. So this mechanic was like it functions as like a modern day Yu-Gi-Oh deck with like old mechanics, which I thought was cool. Um,
I mean,
and
I'm
like
of
all
the
these cards are
personal
broken.
opinion. I'm of the personal opinion that if your archetype fundamentally breaks the idea of the mechanic, it is broken.
Yeah, it's this deck is so broken. Like the all these cards they either search set cards or like pop stuff for free, and then like the I kind of want to talk about Clefairio because this is what made the deck competitive. I think this card is so ridiculous at like um searching your engine spells and then popping cards on top. So it's like removal, right? And this is like quite unheard of because like another archetype Orcus, the Girsu does basically the same thing. Like you slap it on top and like do it for free. And this is what also breaks Yu-Gi-Oh at this point too, is that like I know Guard Charger that we just saw like in the hat deck profile kind of breaked it. Even in Dragon Ruler too, but like being able to stack exceeds on top of exceeds was what broke Yu-Gi-Oh for the most part in that point in time. And to see that in modern day with this deck is quite unheard of.
I mean, like I think the biggest offender for breaking the mechanic is Zodiac because it's just normal summon Rat Peer do the effect, and now you make an Xyz on top with one material. I thought that was absurd. That breaks the mechanic entirely.
Yeah, like that was like for sure, but like that I think that's to me the best exceed mechanic of like the exceed deck of all time, right? But in this current iteration of it, like one there's multiple one card combos in this deck, so like it's kind of crazy. But I think that wraps it up for this episode. What are our takeaways? Like exceeds are just like they changed the game forever.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up here. Dakari, Sebastian, thank you guys for joining us. And if you made it this far into our video, in this discussion, this historical overview, like, comment, and subscribe. I hate saying it, but it's kind of fun to say. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. And then whatever video we do next, we'll see what happens then.